All right, so it's 9:01, so maybe we'll get started and people can attend as they see fit and when they're able to join us. So first off, I'd like to just say welcome, and I'd like to say acknowledge that I'm based out of Regina, so I'm in Treaty 4 territory in the land of Métis. I just want to welcome you all today to this information session. I think it's going to be a really good session. We did one of these earlier last week with some of the leaders of the tech sector, and it went really well. Really good discussion and really good information that our panelists were able to share. So looking forward to doing it again this morning. So as I mentioned before, my name is Andrew Waba. I'm a director with Innovation Saskatchewan. And today's intent is really twofold. It's one, to provide you with information about supports and programs that are there for the tech sector on international opportunities. And then the second part is to gain your feedback and really learn more about what you'd like to see, how we're engaging with you so far, how you're taking advantage of these opportunities, and how you'd like to hear about them, and anything else you'd like to let us know. So we have, the way it's going to work today is we have 3 panelists, and each one is going to get 5 to 10 minutes to speak, and then there'll be a question and answer period after that. Excuse me. And then at the end, we're going to open up the discussion. We have some questions that I'm going to lead and see if we can get some feedback from you. So we have 3 speakers today. We have Ren Lauer from the Trade Commissioner with Global Affairs Canada. We have Kendra Warner, the Director of International Policy with the provincial government. And then we have Andrew Doan, a trade specialist with Saskatchewan Export and Trade Partnership. So I'm going to jump right into it, and we're going to turn it over to Ren, and he's got 5 to 10 minutes to share all the great things that they're doing at Global Affairs Canada. So Ren, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you to IS for pulling this all together. It's very exciting to have, all of these old and new partners and friends coming together to find ways to work better together to serve the tech community. And there's exciting things happening in Saskatchewan's tech community. So it makes our job easy, but we really do want to work together, as one team to help you. So this is part of our intent. And moving forward, we hope to continue in this way. So hello, thanks to Andrew. I'm Ren. I'm short for Reynolds. I work with Global Affairs and the Trade Commissioner Service, and I help tech companies. Part of my portfolio, and the major part of my portfolio, is helping tech companies in Saskatchewan access international markets. And so, big picture, the Trade Commissioner Service, there's a few different buckets that exist within Global Affairs, whether it be international humanitarian aid, international diplomacy, trade. And so trade is the bucket that we call the Trade Commissioner Service. And so we are part of the suite of federal government programs, and there's a number of them, some of whom I notice are even on the line today, that also have international dynamics to their service offerings. So EDC is another great, and I just want to give it a shout out to EDC. Check out what they're doing. They're also doing some great things to help, companies export, particularly in financing. NRC IRAP, they do great work on co-innovation, and if you're a tech company, NRC IRAP and the good work they do. And Prairies Can also has an international element to some of their work. So just shout out to some of my other federal colleagues and the work that they do. But in terms of the Trade Commissioner Service, our bread and butter, this is what we do day in, day out, is international trade. And so, I just want to outline a few of the services that we do, a few of our programs and initiatives. But I really just want to highlight, this is like a thesis for me, 3 points for you to remember. 1, if you're interested in international trade or want to learn more, the Trade Commissioner Service has a lot to offer. So please think of it. Think of us if you're thinking about trade. 2, my door is wide open. So please come to me and I can help you navigate the Trade Commissioner Service. I love meeting with companies and I'd love to meet with you. So let me talk a little bit about our core services. So we have 4 core services that we provide to companies. So 1 is we help them prepare for international markets. So that's me working with a company to sort of go through their thought process, provide a bit of advice, send over some resources, and really help the company get started in this journey, or consider other markets if they're already in this journey. The second part is helping companies gain market intelligence. And that can be anything from market access information, like what are the international regulations I need to know, or what are the competition, and really get a snapshot and a feeler for whether this market makes sense for you as a company. The third thing we do is provide qualified contacts. So that can be anything from a buyer itself, and we provide loads of warm introductions to prospective buyers or research partners, but it could also be a lawyer or an accountant or a consultant to help you as you navigate this new market. And the fourth is problem solving. So the Trade Commissioner Service has been around for 125 years. We are in over 160 cities around the world, and there's over 1,300 trade commissioners in total. But what we've seen is, hey, like sometimes Canadian companies get in a bind. And so we're here to help you in that. We don't provide legal advice, but we can shepherd you in the process. So as I mentioned, we're in 160 cities around the world, and this is part of how we leverage our global affairs network. So we're in the embassies and our consulates globally, but we also have trade commissioners like myself, helping build relationships with Canadian companies and following them in their journey. And so that's how our 4 core services are delivered through our department. We also have a few, so let me just take a step back and just mention, so I do this a lot, right? I'm engaging with trade commissioners abroad and tech companies locally. And I've been doing this for just about 2 years. And I pulled my 18-month stats just to give you a sense of what that looks like in reality, in a tangible sense. And so in the last 18 months, for example, I provided over 200 services to 84 tech companies here in the province. And I've made 95 introductions to trade commissioners abroad, introducing a company to our network abroad. So that's, there's some real life, tangible work that's happening in this way. We also offer some specific programs. And so I'm just going to highlight 2 of them for you, but there's lots of others. So one is CanExport SME. So this is a program that really financially de-risks your expansion into an international market. And the focus is helping you explore a new market. There's some guidelines and sort of rules around who's eligible and what those activities look like. But it's really, we provide in the new reopening of this program, 50% of the costs, non-repayable. You kick in 50% of those costs, and it can be things, especially in a COVID world, things like digital marketing. So your Google AdWords, your Facebook, as long as they're hyper targeted on that new market, we're there to help you. Could be a consultant to do a market assessment for you. And in a post-COVID world, that'll be things like travel, hotels, attending conferences, for you to expand your international markets as a company and engage in prospecting and identifying new companies. And so, this is reopened. The program has just reopened, but it will be closing here shortly in about 10 days. It's hyper competitive, and there's, to be frank with you, not a ton of money left in the budget, but the program is reopening in January, and I'm happy to provide more advice, and I can work with you on that, to work on your brainstorming, your ideas, and even take a look at your application before you hit submit, just to make sure that you're on the right track, because I don't want our SaaS companies, spending time running up a rabbit trail they don't need to. So I'm here to help you, so please contact me. And since 2019, a number of Saskatchewan companies have taken us up on this program. So we've been able to fund 32 Saskatchewan companies for almost $1 million, and almost half of those companies have come from the tech sector. So it's very exciting to see the traction that has developed. We also have our Canadian Technology Accelerator program. It's called a CTA, and some of you probably already know about the CTA, but this is operated, organized, operated, implemented by the Trade Commissioner Service. And we often partner with local accelerators. So if it's like the Ag Tech Accelerator in Minneapolis, we partner with Farm to Fork, Techstars Accelerator in Minneapolis as well. But these are things that we own, we recruit for, and we implement. And they are implemented in over 10 global tech hubs around the world, really sector specific. So if you think like Germany, we have a connected vehicles CTA program. If you think New York, we have a cybersecurity CTA program. Minneapolis, an ag tech CTA program. Mexico, smart cities. You know, the list goes on. And really, it's like any accelerator program. You jump in with, you know, 8 to 10 other companies. But the interesting part of this is you're jumping into a new ecosystem where you're going to get the local intelligence. You're going to build those local contacts. You're going to figure out what's the best way for you to navigate in this new market. And so this has been, there's an amazing alumni of household names, Lightspeed, Wealthsimple. You know, there's a lot of companies that have gone through this program, have become household names. And, you know, we hope that you consider that, and so you could be a future household name for us as well. But there's been a lot of SaaS companies that have taken advantage again of this. We've had 7 in the last 18 months that have been accepted into the program. And so, you know, companies like Luxonic accepted into our digital health CTA, and Go Systems also accepted into our digital health, iTrax into our Boston CTA, New Life in a green tech CTA or a clean tech CTA, you know, and the list goes on. So if you're interested in the CTAs, please, you know, consider it and apply, because I think this is a great opportunity for you to get some super tailored advice and support as you begin that international journey. And it's all free. It's all free for you as companies. So I'm calling this into time, but we have a bunch of other initiatives that we have too, and ongoing, like Skillshark is currently in our LA Sports Boot Camp. This is an initiative that has been organized by us. You know, we can think about Women in Cloud Accelerator. You know, we've recruited 2 Saskatchewan companies who have been participants of that. We run B2B programs all over the world, alongside some major tech conferences as well. And so, you know, the client journey, I just want to end off with what that really looks like as a client journey. So if you're a tech company and you're thinking about international markets, reach out to me, and I can help you narrow down your market, discuss what your plans are. If you're interested in Europe, we'll talk about, you know, our free trade agreements that exist. What are some of the considerations you need to think about in terms of data and privacy considerations? I'll introduce you to a trade commissioner, you know, in Berlin or in Paris, and I'll also introduce you to our trade commissioner who specializes in GDPR in Brussels. We'll follow your journey and provide you input on how to apply for CanExport and does this CTA work for you, and follow you throughout that journey so that you can succeed. So please, my door is wide open. I'd love to work with you, and thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Ren. That's great. That's a lot of interesting information. So I forgot to mention, or maybe I mentioned, but you probably figured it out, that Amanda is sharing a number of links in the chat referring to the programs I've been speaking about, and that's going to happen throughout this webinar today. We will share all these links after, so you don't have to click and save and do all that. We will put them up on our website after, so you have access to all of them from all the speakers. If there are any questions for Ren, if you don't mind raising your hand with that, that'd be great. If you have any questions, please let us know, and then I'll pass the floor over to you. The other thing, which isn't a necessity, but it's just kind of a point of preference for me, if you don't mind to turn your camera on, it'd be great to see some of the faces and talk to some faces opposed to initials. But that's just me. You don't have to, obviously. Thanks, Blair. All right, and if you want, you can ask questions in the chat as well during the presentation and after. But if there are no questions, comments, one thing, I had a question. Your CTAs, I've heard a lot about them. What does it actually look like? Like, what's the commitment from a company? Is it a cohort? Is it a 2-month, 1 month? Well, what does it actually look like? Everyone's different, I presume, but. Yeah,
they are a little different. And in a you know, pre or post-COVID world, there will be a little bit different as well. So typically in a CTA, we are looking for companies to spend some time in market. So, and that will be either, you know, in a post-COVID world, that will happen. And so that will be spending, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in market to make those, you know, those in-person introduction and engage with your cohort in a more meaningful way. We also, the CTAs are often connected to some major conferences or global initiatives where there's an opportunity for you to pitch in front of an audience, for you to engage in real B2Bs and in-person opportunities for you to engage with prospective clients. But I mean, the cohorts are usually between 8 to 10 companies. In terms of a time commitment, usually in a virtual world right now, you're meeting about once a week for a few hours. We are looking for a commitment from someone who's a senior person within the company to devote that time to that process. And so that's really what it looks like, from our side. In the U.S. programs, I mean, one of the interesting nuances is in the U.S. programs, we're typically looking for companies that are fundraising. So because in our U.S. offices, and we have offices throughout the U.S., we have a particular strength in venture capital. And so often if you're thinking about raising capital, this is something to really consider. You'll be matched with a mentor, you'll get a pitch coach, you'll pull back the curtain on venture capital and have those informal discussions of really what are we looking at, as a venture capitalist, what am I looking for in a company? And get some of that frank advice that, sometimes it's difficult to get because we have an interest in putting our best foot forward, and sometimes it's hard to get that. So, these are some really interesting nuances that exist within the program.
That sounds like a really great program. It'll be interesting to see how it goes for Skillshark down in California. That's a great opportunity for them. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, as I mentioned, we have these CTAs, and then we have these, sort of other initiatives, and there's lots of them. So the LA Sports Camp, we have a Canada to Chicago mentorship program for life sciences companies. Again, I mentioned we partner with Microsoft and the Women in Cloud, many. We also produce deal books that highlight, it's really a profile of companies across Canada that are looking for venture capital. And we send this off to investors throughout North America. So, there's lots happening. Too much for 10 minutes, but I'm not going anywhere, and I'm happy to help companies sort it out. Awesome, that's great, Ren. And we'll share your contact information if hasn't already been shared, but we'll get that up in the chat, and then people can reach out to you when they're ready to look at these opportunities. If there are no questions for Ren, I don't see any hands, so we will move on. The chat lit up and got me excited there, but that was Amanda. Not that that's not exciting, sharing more links, but I thought it was a question. Okay, so we're going to turn it over to Kendra. Thanks, Ren. I will turn it over to Kendra to share what the provincial government is doing with their international offices and opportunities in that space.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me today. I am really delighted to be here with all of you and in such good company with our partners like Innovation Saskatchewan and the TCS and STEP, as well as other colleagues on the line. So thank you. My name is Kendra Warner. I am the Director of International Policy for the International Offices branch with the Ministry of Trade and Export Development. I've been in this role for about a year, and I'm just really pleased to share a bit more about our work. Also on the line with me from our ministry are Blair Hudima, and he's our new Director of International Engagement, as well as Ahmed Murad, who's our International Engagement Specialist responsible for tech sector pathfinding. So you are in good hands here from the Ministry of TED. Ren is a really tough act to follow. He has so much information and, like he said, 125 years behind him. So please don't judge me with the same bar because we are still building. But I think it's actually a really excellent time to be engaging with the tech sector today because we are eager to learn from you what your international interests are all about. So I'm hoping that I learn as much from you today as hopefully you learn from me. So into the spiel. As you may know, the government of Saskatchewan introduced its plans for an international trade and investment office network with the growth plan that was released in November 2019. The network was established to advance this government's international engagement goals by locating Saskatchewan trade and investment personnel in key markets. This is not a new concept. Saskatchewan's had an international office in Shanghai, China since 2010. However, the growth plan announcement and the associated goals and activities brought international engagement into laser focus for this government. So since November 2019, and despite a global pandemic, we've opened offices in New Delhi, India, Tokyo, Japan, and Singapore, as well as staffing a new managing director in our Shanghai, China office. We are now working into phase 2, preparing to deploy managing directors to the 4 additional offices opening this year in Mexico City, Mexico, Dubai, UAE, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and London, UK. So in terms of who we are and what we do, I'll give you the formal answers first. The official mandate of the International Office Network is to grow trade, attract investment, support innovation, and drive international engagement in key markets to advance Saskatchewan's growth plan goals. To fulfill that mandate, we've identified 4 key lines of business. So our first line of business is international awareness, and that's basically just positioning Saskatchewan as a preferred global partner, telling that Saskatchewan story in our key markets, and using that growing awareness of the Saskatchewan value proposition to help facilitate trade, investment, and engagement. The second line of business is international relations. And I actually have several of my international relations colleagues on the line today, so they can correct me if I'm wrong about some of this. But international relations for us is all about protecting and advancing Saskatchewan's interests through advocacy, influence, and policy development, facilitating new international partnerships, and contributing to intergovernmental programs, missions, and diplomacy. Our third line of business is investment attraction. And if you have questions about investment attraction, that is where Blair Hadima comes from. So he is your guy. And please don't ask me. So that line of business is all about identifying and attracting investment, as well as supporting reinvestment opportunities, providing in-market intelligence, networking, and relationship management to facilitate that investment. And our last but not least, actually probably maybe most important line of business is trade and economic development. So the international offices are your in-market resource to support export-ready businesses to grow and diversify exports, identify emerging export opportunities and enhance market access, provide in-market intelligence, networking, and relationship management to facilitate trade, and ensure talent acquisition through the promotion of our Saskatchewan education and skilled migration programs. So while these 4 outline our core business, the specific strategy for each of our locations varies, as you can imagine. Market-specific opportunities, risks, priorities, and external context will all play a role in developing our strategy for each office. And I'm also hoping that stakeholder engagement like this is going to help us in developing those market strategies. So your input is extremely important on that front. A little bit more about our structure. The model for Saskatchewan's international offices is to co-locate where possible with the federal government. So that's in our embassies and consulates. This allows us to benefit from that vast federal network that Ren was speaking of, and all of the expertise and resources in those locations. The model also helps us keep Saskatchewan on the federal radar and top of mind for opportunities generated in market by our federal colleagues. Excuse me. Our offices are staffed with a Government of Saskatchewan Managing Director, as well as local team members from that particular country. The network is then further supported through our headquarters team here in Regina. So that's including folks like myself, Blair, and Ahmed. Just to give you a little bit of an example of what this looks like in action, our managing director in the Saskatchewan, Japan office, Paul Price, worked with the TCS and others in the tech ecosystem to secure the attendance of Hike Ventures, a Japanese venture capital firm, at the Uniting the Prairies conference in June of 2021. This marked the first time that a venture capital firm from outside of North America had participated in the event, which is quite a coup. Similarly, together with the TCS, the Saskatchewan Japan office is working to connect Saskatoon-based game developer Foolish Mortals with a video game localizer that can bring kaiju wars to the Japanese market. At home and abroad, we work closely with our partners and stakeholders to share market expertise, align our service offerings, and position ourselves to advance this provincial growth plan that we keep talking about. The takeaway here is that the International Office Network provides in-market support to our ministry and agency partners like Innovation Saskatchewan, STEP, and the TCS, as well as Saskatchewan stakeholders and partners like yourselves. We see ourselves as service providers and dot connectors. So in terms of our commitment to you, The growth plan talks about tripling the tech sector. So now we need to hear from you about how we can contribute to that goal through the use of our international offices and in-market expertise. I would love to take your questions, and I will also happily hand off some of my questions to Blair and Ahmed if they're more in those lines of expertise. So hit me if you have any.
Thanks, Kendra. That's great. Yeah, so we'll open it up. If there are any questions, please raise your hands. I really like that story about the company from Saskatoon getting connected to Japan. It's really interesting. And then, you know, listening to Kendra and Reynolds speaking about all the opportunities that they have coming from abroad, and there are a ton, right? There are lots and lots of things that are always coming up and opportunities. And one of the things that we want to hear back from you at the end is how do we make sure that we get these in front of you in a timely fashion and in front of the right people so you can take advantage of these opportunities? Because it's a challenge. There are lots. And then we have to filter them and then get them to the right people at the right time so you can take advantage of the opportunities, because they are real and they're great. So, okay, any questions, any hands, any comments?
Does the raise hand thing work? Because I can't.
Oh, that's a good question, Corey. I think it does. But anyways, I assume you have a question. So if you do, you can just ask without raising your hand. Sorry.
I guess my question would be, like, we're working in all different countries and where you have offices and expertise. So what happens when it's like Australia, South Africa, Brazil, and other places?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Kendra.
So at the moment, in terms of our client service and our strategies, we're really focusing on the locations where the offices are presently. However, each of those offices is also going to be kind of regionally responsible. So we will have a bit of a map for, you know, for example, our office in Dubai is going to be responsible for the MENA region. So, and our office in Singapore, for example, will reach beyond Singapore in the ASEAN region. So we will have a bit of a map as to how each of these offices supports more broadly. But for our initial year or so, we're kind of still establishing what that looks like.
Okay, thanks. The only other thing I'd add is with that, and we talked about this before, is that as you can see, we all know each other and we're here to serve you in the international community. So if it's not Kendra's group that can help you, then she'll pass it off to Reynolds or Andrew or whoever we have that can support you in that way. So just reach out and then they'll pathfind for you to the best of their ability.
It's a great point. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other comments? Okay. If no more questions, we can move on to the next presentation. So we have Andrew from STEP. Oh, we have a question here. We are interested in having conversations with potential customers to dialogue and further establish product market fit. Who should we reach out to? So that's a question from Joanne. Any thoughts on that question? So the question again is, we're interested in having conversations with potential customers to dialogue and further establish product market fit. Who should we reach out to?
Joanne, so do you have a sense of, is there a region that you're looking at specifically, or is there any more context around who you're hoping to connect with?
Now we're talking with folks in Houston, particularly in the States, usually. So we're just really wondering if there are opportunities for us to participate in some exchanges, perhaps, with that community particularly.
STEP can be supportive in that role. I would recommend we can chat a little bit further. We can do some lead generation as well as look to find contacts for you. I think our market intelligence team, which I'll delve into with my presentation coming up a little bit further, would be very supportive and helpful in that role as well.
What a segue, Joanne. Well done.
Yeah, And just to interrupt that segue, and hi, Joanne, good to see you again. So, I mean, we have trade commissioners in two different cities in Texas, so Dallas and Houston. You know, and so just, you know, working with those trade commissioners to identify opportunities, I mean, it's really that sort of one-on-one help that they can provide you. Those are really big markets, right? Huge players. But, you know, finding the best pathway for you and providing some advice. So definitely, you know, follow up with my colleague, Kimberly Brown, who I think you've been working with on the clean tech side and on the extractives. So as I mentioned, you know, I should mention we have other colleagues covering other sectors as well here in Saskatchewan. So, you know, definitely continue to work with them.
Awesome. Any more questions or? Okay, Andrew, I will turn it over to you. The floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks,
Yeah, no
Amanda. And thanks to Innovation Sask as well as all of you for being here today. I think getting together like this is a great exercise, and this communication among entrepreneurs and then the partners in this space is really important and something we should continue working on. I appreciate the opportunity to chat about STEP, tell you about what we're working on, and have the opportunity to connect with all of you. I just want to backtrack just quickly to you know, Joanne's question and then Maya and Ren's answer, and just let you guys know that we are really working as one, as we've been mentioning. So probably one of the things I would have done is also, if, you know, help you out, recommend our market intelligence team, but also recommend that you reach out to Ren if you didn't already know to do that. So, you know, they're the boots on the ground, and we're definitely all a team here. So to get into STEP a little bit more, STEP is the official trade promotion agency for the province of Saskatchewan. Our motto is connecting Saskatchewan business with the world. STEP currently has nearly 400 Saskatchewan exporting companies and organizations as members, and we run as an independent nonprofit. We provide export marketing services to support our export members and international businesses to connect and do business, with the mandate of supporting market-ready companies get their products and services to outside markets. STEP has been working in all of Saskatchewan's primary markets since its incorporation 25 years ago. We traditionally have worked a lot within agriculture and ag value foods, as well as manufacturing, with some mining and energy in there as well. And now we're working towards putting an emphasis on our tech sector companies and the sector as a whole. So I'm on the manufacturing and technology team. I joined the team early this summer, so relatively new. We have a new senior director, his name is Kevin Shute, who also joined our 3-person team at that time. Kevin concentrates primarily in manufacturing, while our other third colleague, Ryan Niemela, manages energy and mining portfolios, and I concentrate on technology and public procurement. With that said, we are not very siloed, and we do work together with our members in so many different capacities. So especially within technology, as companies may work with us depending on the type of industries they work within. And of course, many tech companies are digitizing within Kevin and Ryan's sectors, like ag tech and clean tech, and you know, we'll work with you as a team in different capacities. So as our team is evolving, we're in the process of building and planning how to work more actively and engage with our tech members and the partners in this space. Since moving to this role, I've spent a lot of time speaking to entrepreneurs. Love to have a lot more conversations with you folks about your needs, as well as I've been spending a lot of time working with our partners like TED, the TCS, our provincial accelerators, and other stakeholders within the sector to kind of learn how we can work together and complement each other and support the sector. Sector is relatively newer to us as an organization, and we're working to fulfilling our role, you know, less passively and more assertively. With that, we're trying to learn from what is needed from companies in this space and how to service them and provide value. So please reach out and let me know if you have any ideas and thoughts. So a lot of the value that we do offer is derived from the services we provide, which have a lot of value to the tech sector. I think our most ubiquitous kind of encompassing service offer that every company can really gain value from is our custom market intelligence, which I mentioned earlier. We actually have a market intelligence team that has access to over a dozen databases, and they can get into some very specific reports and requests for our member companies. So a lot of our member companies within the tech space use this service to research new potential markets, competition, compliance and regulatory issues within new markets and how to access them, as well as can use that service for lead generation. STEP also goes on a lot of outgoing business development missions throughout the year. Of course, a lot of these have been virtual in the last year and a half, hoping that will change a lot in the upcoming months. We lead trade shows, we go to conferences, and we also go on outgoing buyer missions, which generally look like taking a group of companies to a market that they have interest in and arranging meetings with qualified buyers beforehand, and just get our companies in face-to-face meetings with buyers that work for them. We also provide, back when we had a lot more travel going on, we had a lot of incoming buyer programs. We receive incoming missions from other countries, trade delegations. So we often host those delegations and then take them around the province and show them what we offer and introduce them to our different companies and producers. So that's something that hopefully gets really revved back up again soon. So we also do provide some funding for companies that are trying to get to markets that they haven't been to before. We have a program called the Market Access Program, or MAP, and it provides funding to our members who want to go visit a new market or a market they haven't been to for quite a while, to go explore and either present at a conference or a show, and meet with buyers with an opportunity to sell their product outside of Saskatchewan's borders. A few other things that events that we often have throughout the year. We do monthly seminars on trade and international export, usually one a month, and they range on a variety of different topics. Pretty interesting, usually bringing an expert on that topic to discuss. And then we do a lot of education and networking events throughout the year. And there's usually, those kind of vary between Regina and Saskatoon, and are a good opportunity for people to meet each other and learn in this sector, and others as well. Good opportunity to learn about export from people in other sectors who've been successful throughout the province. Lastly, as mentioned, we do work closely with our partners, like I mentioned before, with the Trade Commissioner Services, TED, Innovation Saskatchewan, and all those guys. So going forward, we're excited to see how things are going to go. You can definitely, I would recommend checking out our website. We do have a calendar of listing of our events there. There's quite a few in the next coming months. It's a little bit more fluid later. Everything has to be during COVID, but we do update it consistently and it's a good resource to keep tabs on what we're up to, and events we're hosting, as well as participating in here and abroad. We're also really looking forward to working with you folks here and just supporting the sector. We're looking, and we are growing our tech-based membership. Definitely the more companies in different tech spaces, the more opportunities we have to do with it, to participate and get out in the world in this sector. Next year things are ideally going to be open up, and we're going to be looking at more and more events in person. So really looking forward to that, and hoping that the world's in that place. Lastly, we are looking at different ways to participating in events when we go. So, a lot of events are in the tech sector aren't like other sectors like manufacturing where you automatically exhibit. So what we'd be doing is looking to hopefully go to some major tech hubs and line up some B2B meetings before or after the show and do a Saskatchewan showcase. So that's something we'll be working on as well. So if you're a company that is market ready or getting close to, or not even, I'd love to chat with you. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or looking for more information. just love meeting with entrepreneurs and learning about your companies and your plans moving forward, and how we can work with you and support you. So thanks. And yeah, any questions?
Okay, great. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, if any, I don't know, like Corey said, if the hand's not working or not, but if you have any questions, either raise your hand or please feel free to just put it in the chat or unmic yourself and ask away. Okay, pretty shy group today. That's a lot of information, though. I know we've covered a lot of different opportunities. I'll be really interested when we get into the feedback session to hear what people are thinking. Why you came today? Was it for the information, or was it for you had something specific? See a hand raised here. One. So Carl, I believe there it is. Carl, if you want to unmic yourself, please, and you have the floor.
Thanks, Andrew. My name's Carl Miller. I'm with the Industrial Research Assistance Program, or IRAP, based out of Calgary. I'm a client engagement advisor. I'd just like to be able to give a little bit of a background as to how IRAP works on the international front, if that'd be okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Sorry, when I put it over to you, I was going to say we have some bonus content for you today that we didn't have scheduled, but we're great to have Carl with us to share what they're doing with IRAP. So we can pass it over to you. That's great. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. Can everyone hear me all right? Great. Just try to do a sound check here. Is everyone familiar with IRAP? Is there a way to do a show of hands to get a sense of that?
You might want to do a quick overview.
Okay, so just let me give you a quick background. So IRAP, and excuse the acronyms, we're the federal government and we're really good at that. IRAP is the Industrial Research Assistance Program. We're part of the larger National Research Council of Canada. NRC's been around since 1916. IRAP will celebrate 75 years next year. NRC itself is about 3,500 people and 179 sites across the country doing mostly fundamental research. IRAP itself is, I'd like to joke, is a weird stepchild of the National Research Council because we don't do basic research, we focus on commercialization. Now, IRAP itself is made up mostly of 265 industrial technology advisors, or ITAs. You'll see them in Saskatoon and Regina as well. I like to joke that the men and women that make up that cohort either have gray hair or no hair. They're not fresh out of college, let's put it that way. Typically, they come from a background of having worked with a large commercialization department, so run let's say an R&D group within an organization the size of Nortel or BlackBerry, that scale, or they've started their own tech company. So they've started it, they've built it, they've sold it, or they blew it up, or some combination thereof. Their main reason for being is to provide advice for tech companies, to be able to help them avoid the potholes and the pitfalls of doing tech development and commercialization, and basically trying to help them, conserve the two things that are most precious. One is time and the other is money, as they're trying to be able to develop that. The second thing that IRAP has is a very large network. We have 265 industrial technology advisors. Each are advising approximately 20 companies a year. We have a database of 80,000 clients across the country that we've worked with. So if there's a commercial or a research relationship that's useful for them, we can help put them and connect them together to be able to do that. The third thing that IRAP has is program money, and the program money is there to be able to help those companies hire technical horsepower, software developers, engineers, research scientists, that sort of stuff. So that's basically IRAP in a nutshell in terms of how we look at the world. We're there to be able to help on the technical side. IRAP International is not very well known in the IRAP world. We're about 1/10 of the whole IRAP budget, around $32 million. We work on collaborative R&D projects to be able to connect firms basically in most of the places that GAC goes. We have distinct relationships with different countries, of course, just depending on the federal government's focus areas. We've got Germany, Japan, the United Kingdom, Brazil, China, most of the other countries in Europe, India, Israel, South Korea. And you name the sector, we've got interest and companies working in those areas. We've got memorandums of understanding with different countries and research organizations within those countries to be able to help connect companies. Our idea around co-innovation is that we're not there to sell stuff necessarily to that country, but to be able to partner, to be able to develop the technology so that it could be sold in that country, or it could be sold in other places. That's we're typically working on those kinds of relationships on an ongoing basis, and then each year we have roughly 24 calls for missions to those countries to be able to get and connect IRAP companies with those organizations. I tried to say and the economies and the thematic areas in terms of the industrial areas that we're focusing on change, but it's those kinds of situations that allow us to be able to bring IRAP companies to those markets with a level of sophistication so they're not going in raw. We have basic programming as well that helps companies do the prep. So it's the International Co-Innovation Action Plan program, and it's a really good way for IRAP clients to be able to go, we think we want to go to this country, we think we want to be able to target the market there, but we really don't know where to start. So we help do a bunch of prep work for them as well, just to be able to get them focused on what they need to be able to do and how they can actually attack it without again wasting that time and money that's so precious to them. Typically, what we're looking for is we're looking for companies that they've like 15 employees and $500,000 in sales. They want to have some traction, and they've got a good idea as to where they can go with that, where they can go with the base technology they've got in the countries they might be interested in going with. Questions?
Thanks, Carl. Oh, Corey, I see your hand raised. The button works. Awesome.
Yeah, I got it figured out, all this tech stuff.
Perfect. The floor is yours.
Yeah, you got a question about the Eureka program. So we were encouraged to apply to the Eureka program for the country with Austria. They also were able to meet the requirements to apply. And we went through a 3-month sort of a accelerator with IRAP staff in end of last year to about February, finished our application. The application's been sitting there now forever. It's October, it's almost a year later, and no one's reviewed it. There's no funding apparently. So I guess a little bit of a, like, supposed to be helping us to do things, and it's really hasn't evolved into anything. We can't get any response. So how do you deal with this frustration?
Oh, Carl, I think you're on mute there.
Corey, you can come and talk to me, and I'll help bird dog it for you and try to understand what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, looks like we found the hand button. We have MC Guarantee Technology. You can unmute yourself. Perfect.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. My question is, sorry, my name is Kingsley Wakwe. So I'm from MC Guarantee Technology. I founded MC Guarantee 3 years ago. I came into Canada 3 years ago, actually, into Saskatchewan. So founded the company a few months later. So I've been tech guy from background, electronics and computer engineer. do a little bit of development. And since then, I've worked for almost 15 years before coming to Canada. So I started my tech company. I worked a little bit when I came into Saskatchewan, few companies I worked with, but then my goal has always been to do my own things, to find my own things. So I started a tech company. I've been doing a bit of fulfillment in terms of tech part of the business. So I do fulfillment for tech company who have contract, but they want us to fulfill their job. So we go in there, do their deployment, do their problem, fix their problems and all that. Whatever it is in terms of tech, we do. So I started up another phase of my business called the Mobile Tech Clinic. So Mobile Tech Clinic is more like taking the IT services to the people. We realize that so many people have a situation where they have problems with their tech, with their computers or phone or whatever they have. They're having challenges. And
sorry, Kingsley, just for the sake of time, it's great to welcome to Canada, welcome to Saskatchewan. Just wondering though, do you have a question specifically for the panel as well?
Yes, I have a question. I'm just going to get to I just want to give a little background before I get into that question. So this is what we do. We try to take that services to the people. Instead of looking for, because people are too busy, sometimes they don't remember to fix their problems. So we want to take it to them directly so people can book and we can go drive to them and fix their problem. So further to that, I started a company called ZLink. So ZLink is like Teams. What I've done is I've developed an application with my team that is doing real-time translation to any language and real-time translation to sign language for the hard in hearing. So what we're doing is our system is able to use an avatar, translate to sign language for those who are having hard in hearing. The next phase of our technology is building, translating the sign language into voice back to those to the person who is trying to communicate, and we are trying to pick up the face. And so there are a couple of things we are doing. Now the question is, we've been trying to, most of the thing we've done so far is been funding from ourselves. We'll gather our money, put our resources together, and we've done that. And now we've been nominated with TNT, Collab, we are working with them and all that. But then the challenge is huge because there is a lot we want to do. There's so much we want to do. And most time when you try to look for funding, you try to look, nobody's kind of reaching out, nobody is, it kind of, oh, you will need a traction, you need a traction. My question is there no system where you don't have this traction already, but you have a technology that is ready to go to market? You've developed this system, it's been tested, it's working. Is there no way? Because I'm not just looking for funding, I'm also looking for those team members who can help us, drive this system to the next phase of what we're looking at doing, because it's huge. So is there no system where this problem, where these challenges of funding or helping people to get to market is solved without getting to a point where you have to create a traction? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a challenging one. I'm not sure if that's Carl, if that's directly for you, or if that's just a general question, but if you want to take a shot at it, Carl.
Yeah, I mean, Kingsley, I feel your pain on that one. IRAP as a program is set up. Ideally, we're looking for companies in the, our sweet spot is the $1 to $3 million range. And the idea there is that we try not to do the portion of the product market fit. I'm getting the whole idea of the problem solution piece and having companies work through that on their own. That funding piece is different in different provinces, let's put it that way. But the basics of it is that we're asking companies to be a little farther along before we engage with them. That's fundamentally where we're coming at.
Yeah, I guess I could add, Kingsley, like I'd be happy to talk to you after to see if we can pathfind for you and direct you to the tailored solution or who you should be talking to, if we can help you out in that way, and just dig a little deeper and see what supports are in the ecosystem. So feel free to reach out to me after and then we can set that up.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Kingsley, I
right.
mean, in terms of the services, the Trade Commissioner service, some of the programs, you know, especially when there's money involved, they are looking for that initial traction. They are looking for those revenues. CanExport SME program, you need to have over $100,000 of revenue. But you know, the truth is we have lots of going on where that's not a requirement. So it's not money, but it could be advice. It could be, you know, gaining market intelligence. It could be attending webinars, you know, building out your sort of knowledge of what that market could look like in certain jurisdictions. You know, and so it doesn't answer your question or your problem, which is money. But I think that, you know, there are other services that we can provide that can get you, hopefully, you know, build your capacity as a company or get you on a track that where you can generate that revenue later on and then be eligible for, you know, CanExport and IRAP and all the other, you know, great services that are available to you. There's also a program called CanExport Innovation. I didn't mention it. It's a smaller program. There's no annual revenue required. However, I mean, that is advantageous in the program. But that's really, it's not, you know, to fund your core services. It's about, you know, helping develop R&D relationships abroad. So if you are looking at an R&D partnership and there are some costs related to the contracting or the you know, development of that partnership, if it's legal fees or something like that, you know, those are costs that are eligible within that program. It's much smaller, but you know, those are some pathways. So I'm happy to connect, as is probably all of us, to learn about your company and just really provide you the right programs at your right stage. Because, you know, quite frankly, you could be not generating revenue now. In a month from now, you could be generating money hand over fist. Like, tech moves fast. And so, you know, being aware of who we are and providing those services at the right stage of your company is what we hope to do.
Thanks for that, Ren.
Thank you.
My question for you, Ren, is how do I go into a month from now where I'm making money hand over fist? But we can have that conversation later. Any more questions? Oh, for anybody, actually. All right. All right, so that's good. I think, you know, for me, the biggest message out of this is that's a ton of information that we just shared from all the different organizations. But I like we mentioned before, it's this, you know, no wrong door policy. I mean, we're here to help you. We're here to support you. Reach out to any of us and we'll direct you to the people that can, sorry, the chat's distracted me in my thought there. That's right, but we will direct you and help pathfind for you the best that we can. I mean, we are here to support you, and that's what we'll try to do to the best of our abilities. So want that message to really land on you guys and ladies. All right, any more comments, or should we jump into the feedback portion of today's show? Another question I'd have, I see David Crossman from Citrus is here, is how do we get Citrus into that LA Accelerator for Sports, Ren? That'd be another comment I'd have, but we could discuss that after the show as well. Okay, so we'd really like to hear back from you now. So we gave you a lot of information. We told you a lot about the different programs. I mean, you came today to learn a bit about the international opportunities, but I'm sure some people had some questions in mind and some things that they were looking to get out of this today. So, and then like I mentioned as well, we want to provide as best value that we can to you and support you as best we can. So the first question that we had here for you, and this you can answer in the chat or feel free to raise your hand. We really do want to hear from you. If that hasn't landed yet, I think it's been said about 50 times, but that is the truth. So we really want your feedback. So the first question we had is, how do you see these international offices supporting your companies? I know everybody's at different stages in the tech community. Was this really today about getting information, or is there something specific that you're looking to get out of these international offices? So if you could, you know, if anybody has comments, raise your hand. Feel free to put it in the chat. Hopefully I don't just keep talking to myself. Amanda will be reposting the questions. Any thoughts? Anybody want to share?
It's Rick from River City Innovation here in Saskatoon. I guess we've used a lot of the services that you've talked about today. And one thing that I think has been very important to us, other than funding, I guess, is the opportunity to, if we're going to go to another country, another location, making sure that, you know, if we're there for a week, that we meet the right people, that we're connected with the right people, and the meetings are set up well in advance of the travel to those locations. So that's been very helpful to us. I'll share that.
Thanks, Rick. Actually, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to put you in the spot just because I saw your guys' press a couple of weeks ago about landing that contract in France, and I saw that in the tweet it said it was through connections with the trade mission. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that process and maybe how you were engaged with different organizations that are on the call, and just that pathway to ending up with a contract?
Well, I would love to. Jeff Shirley is our CEO, and he's done all the legwork and done the travel, and so he's been involved. He can navigate. So what went on here today, as far as a discussion, is a learning experience for me. He's very good at navigating what you guys just focused on. So he'd be a great guy to do that. Having said that, though, we do have a contract in place, and we'll have a news release within the next 2 weeks. Two news releases within the next week. One around Lauer network in France and Spain, which is a 100 million population that has full access to what we do, a Lauer technology and IoT, Internet of Things. So that's a huge opportunity for us, and we thank the folks on this call for helping us get there. And also with another press release within the next 2 weeks around CanExport, which is a French government-owned satellite company that we're going to have access to here in Canada and US. So two big announcements coming from a lot of the work that I think some of the people here today have helped us do. I can't help you with how it was navigated because Jeff's the guy. So all I know is I know the names. I know the people that are on the call today because I hear Jeff talking about you folks and very positive about it. So sorry I can't help you out more. For that.
No, that's great. Sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah. But no, it's great to see the success that you guys are having and internationally, and seeing I'm in the mood for putting people on the spot. Ren, did you work at all with River Cities? Do you know the pathway that they took to those connections, or how they navigated that?
Right. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not able to disclose, like, unless I get, River City to say it's okay for me to talk about that. But certainly, I mean, I can speak generally to, some of the different opportunities that exist. And this is where, honestly, this is where working with STEP and TED and all of our players really are awesome, because the Trade Commissioner Service, could be organizing a B2B in a certain event, and we're out there, advertising, talking to companies, finding out matches for how that can take place, partnering with the efforts that are happening in market to ensure that, Saskatchewan companies know what's available to them. And so I think in this instance, it's a team effort. It really is. And it's exciting to see. Certainly introductions that we can make to companies, to our in-market trade commissioners can be very helpful, and making those warm introductions. We really are looking for companies, that are ready, like River City, that are ready for exporting. And it takes time to get to that point. Yeah, it takes effort, commitment of resources, and having the capacity to do so. And when you have a company like River City who's able to execute and make those connections, and then not only may have the introduction, but then to run with it and to really, build up, confidence in a prospective buyer and showcase, the unique value proposition that the company has, that's where that traction happens. That's where it gets really exciting. So certainly, in terms of many of the successes that have taken place, it's really been a team effort, but, certainly there is a lot of work that goes on by our teams here and our posts abroad to help secure, the opportunities to take advantage of these things. And we encourage companies to do that, to apply. We've had, for example, CTA programs where we've had no Saskatchewan companies apply to it. And, and these are in some of our very specific areas of our expertise. So we really encourage companies. We understand that you're super busy and you're prioritizing, but we're here to help you when you're at that point and when you have that availability of time and resources to really run with it.
That's great. So without disclosing, I think what I took from that is use the services of Global Affairs. Andrew, Ren, Kendra, they're here to support you. The opportunities are real and they're awesome. I heard you say that, I think. But no, I think that's great. So it's a great success story. And I think the other piece, though, that's important is, I mean, not every opportunity is right for everybody. And we're mindful of your time as well. And we'll be honest in terms of feedback, is this is not the time to apply to this program. This is one maybe you should go after. Like, we'll provide you with that feedback. So try to make best use. We recognize that in a startup or any company, but especially at different stages, you got to focus on different priorities, and we don't want to direct you down the wrong path. So we'll be honest with you in terms of the feedback of which opportunities we feel are appropriate for you at the time and of where your company is. So we had a comment in the chat from David. Thanks for everything today. I think we'll be exploring the available services as we look to expand into the US and eventually looking at exploring funding in the US. That's great. Thanks, David. Okay, any more comments? I have another question for you if there are no more hands. So this one is a bit more general, and then I think I have one more question, I think, and then we'll maybe wrap it up. But this one is, how can our organizations best use our time and resources to support you? So where do you think, with everything that we've said, our best value is to you as a tech community? So I know that would be, really dependent on where your company is and what stage they're at. But if you have any ideas for us as to what we should be focusing on more or less, that would be really helpful. And again, we wanted to do this session as kind of this introduction to everything that's offered and who we are, put some faces to names. And this is an ongoing discussion that we would like to continue to have. So feel free to, if you have thoughts after, message any one of us, maybe I should say that. Message me. I'll take the emails and coordinate that. But we'd really love to hear your feedback. Kendra, I see your hand is raised.
It is raised. So when we met last week with some of the tech sector leaders, I was wondering if we could validate a couple of the things that we heard. So for example, a couple of the pieces that were raised on that conversation were that there's a bit of a need for talent in the tech space, and that's something that has been an ongoing challenge. So I'm interested a little bit in that area of the conversation, if anyone has anything to contribute to that. And then also we'd heard in terms of the preferred way of receiving service, that really a concierge style, like individual one-on-one kind of a framework is best for these companies. So I just wanted to validate a couple of those things that we heard last week.
Yeah, two big points. That first one about labor, and access to talent and immigration, everything. Anybody have any comments? Has your company been looking abroad for talent? Have you struggled to find it? Have you been engaging in that way with your international strategies? Anybody want to share? John.
Hello. It's calling from Saskatchewan here. So like I'm on my third company that has used IRAP, and we've always found it to be like quite good. And so I guess I tried to formulate it into a short question, but I'll just read it off here. So IRAP is often given to companies that are pushing boundaries, and the funding hinges on innovation, at least in my experience. And so the problem is that if you're a company on the cutting edge and you're still going through different funding rounds and you're figuring out your market fit and you're getting pushed and pulled by investors and big clients, often the things that we thought we wanted to build and the things that we like added to the IRAP contract, like we pivoted away from due to multiple factors. But because it's part of the contract and it's how we can pay our employees and stuff, we still had to devote a lot of resources to fulfilling the obligation. So I'm just wondering, like, you've identified that this company's on the cutting edge. You know that they're innovating. They just might not be innovating in the way that they thought they would at the start of the year. And so is there a way to like mitigate the resources lost to that pivoting and allow the company to still get the funding without them having to fulfill this thing that they thought they might want?
That's a great question, John. And I think, Carl, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, awesome. Don't know if you can speak to that one.
John, so the basis of IRAP should be that we're there to be able to help out with that pivot. I mean, the basics of fundamental research and then the trying to commercialize that necessarily ends up with hurdles where you go, we're halfway into this and it's going to go sideways. My experience has been is that the ability for IRAP to change the terms of that and amend the contribution agreement that we put together with them should be able to adapt with that. What are your conversations with your ITA like?
So I am the tech side of it. And so I would guess, like I'm a developer, so I would guess that maybe the problem is that there's a fear in management, maybe that they don't want to pivot. They don't want to talk to you guys again about it. So they just would rather we built the thing that we agreed to because they're worried about potentially losing the funding, maybe.
Right, but okay, but yeah. The thing is, if you're going to build something that nobody's going to use, what the hell's the point of that? I mean, really, there's no way that should be going down. That the conversation should come back to the ITA, right? It should be and the idea of an ITA and the relationship is something that lasts for a number of years. It's not transactional. It's one of those situations where it should be, hey, we just discovered this and we figured this out as we were doing this, and now it's going sideways and we know we need to go here now. That's a totally legitimate conversation to be having with an ITA. And they should never be in a situation where they feel like they can't pick up the phone. They should just do it.
Yeah.
And ideally they should just go for coffee is how IRAP should work. I mean, that's basically and I talk to your management and say, hey, go talk to the ITA, have that conversation.
Yeah. Well, and to be clear, like the company I'm working at now is like, it's much better than I used to have. But it's, I think the more layers of management you add to a company, the more difficult it is to make the person who's actually doing the work understand why they're fulfilling this obligation over here.
Right.
And I don't really know how to mitigate that because I've been at all levels of the chain at this point. So
right.
Like
still whoever's driving the relationship with IRAP should be having that conversation.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Thanks for the question, John. That's a great question. It's something that I heard when I started about 4 years ago, and I heard that about the contracts with IRAP and took them down a path. But I've also heard now, as the program has changed and that the relationships have changed, that's less of an issue, and that you have been able to, it is a relationship and they're there to support you, and you're able to make amendments. So that's a great answer too. Thanks, Carl. It really sounds like relationships, right? Any other comments? So any comments on Kendra's question about labor and your international interest with labor, or where we could support you? Oh, I see a hand raised. Kingsley.
Sorry, my question is, I have like one of my developers, one of the guys working with me is, I don't know how to put it, is out of Saskatchewan. He's not in Canada. He's outside Canada, and he's also part owners of the company. He's a co-founder right now. So he's out there outside somewhere in China, right? We've been friends for a couple of years before I started the company, the software company. So he's part of my company. He's also a developer. Now, my question is, how do we the plan is that we'll be able to move him here so that he's in Canada and all that. How do you work around that aspect of movement? Because it's kind of challenging for me, because most of the time trying to reach him, trying to get things done and all that is very difficult and all that. So he's like the back one of the back end guy in terms of the translation and all that. So is like a key factor in our development, and kind of though he's a very okay guy, he doesn't have a problem with that, but trying to figure out how do we make the movement of getting him in and all that.
No, that's a great question, Kingsley. And I saw that Kendra is sharing links, so maybe you'd like to speak to that, Kendra.
Okay. Yeah, because that's it's been a kind of challenging for me, and trying to get that part of the business result.
Yeah, no, for sure. Go ahead, Kendra.
No, absolutely. This is the kind of pathfinding that we want to be able to help you with, actually. And there are services within the government of Saskatchewan, specifically in our immigration and career training area, that can help direct you towards the appropriate programs, whether it be coming for with the work permits, that would be us liaising with our federal colleagues, or if there's a pathway to permanent residence that you're seeking, then we certainly have folks within our ministries that can help with that. So yeah, I did post the information about the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, but there are other areas. There's an employer services area within ICT as well. We can help find who the right person to talk to is. So really just no wrong door, reach out and we can help you connect the dots.
Yeah, Kingsley, so if we do connect after, I'm happy to share all these resources with you and try to find those pathways for you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, one more question. Yeah, one more question I have. Now, on the tech side of my business, like I said, I have two of those companies currently working. One is the MC Guarantee Technology, who does more of the technical part of business that I started first before founded the software developing company. Now, that part of the business is I have a partnership with Van Dester, but then I have also some kind of product from China, because I did some of my technology training in China. Back when I'm from Nigeria, I was going to China to do some of my training, technology training over there. So I have opportunity of meeting some tech companies who develop innovations and all that. So one of them recently have a new product that we have like a franchise in some of the companies I belong to in Africa. In Nigeria, we have the franchise of that product selling in Africa. I happen to have had that discussion with them, since we have that, then to have that sell in Canada as well. They granted that opportunity for us. Is a scanner, is a new technology scanner we are doing. So we're currently, why I'm asking this question is there any help on how, in terms of importation, is there any help in helping to get some of the product in? Because it's also a challenge in terms of funding, financing that, bringing some of those products. So there are two different products we currently have that we have access to in terms of bringing to Canada and all that. On my website, I actually have them displayed, already selling, and I have people calling because it's huge. It's a huge technology because it's a scanner and it does so many things.
So, sorry, Casey. So the question is there support for importing a product?
Yes.
To Canada.
That's my question.
I'll leave that to the floor. Anybody know of any supports in that space? Getting a lot of puzzled looks here for you. I guess another thing for us to talk about when we catch up, Kingsley, and we'll see if we can get a better understanding of what you're looking for and see if we can pathfind for you.
Okay.
Thanks for the question. Any other comments, labor front? And then we'll jump to Kendra's last question, which was also mine, because I think it's that real that point of how do we best provide the information to you and curate all these opportunities, how would you like to receive that? Right now, we work together to kind of Ren and Kendra and their teams go through all the information that comes in, put it into a package, they distribute it, and then we try to distribute it further to the tech sector and find the right companies. But there's a lot of manual process in that, and we just want to see what's working, what's not working, what would be more effective, what would you like to see? So just if anybody has any thoughts, like I know Ren and I were talking, like getting emails is great and it's a lot of work, but it's really challenging to digest that, and you guys are busy with your companies. So to really just make sure that you're seeing the right information at the right time, how can we better do that? What would you like to see? Any thoughts on that? I imagine everybody's madly typing all their golden solutions in the chat right now. It really is a challenge, right? To curate all this information to make sure that people have it. And right now we do a lot of this. I think Kendra used the word this concierge, like we really try to know the companies and meet people and know what they're doing, so that when we see the opportunities, we know who might be interested or have at least an idea. But that's really dependent on the individuals and our ability to talk to everybody. And in the pandemic, that's a real challenge. So if anybody has any ideas, golden tickets, we'd love to hear them now or after. Passing info to Slack groups like Collabs is useful. Chloe is very good about getting it out. Yeah, thanks. We do try to hit up. So one of the challenges with that I find, and I'm not sure about you, Ren, we don't want to inundate all these Slack channels with everything. Like we try to curate it. So it's always a bit of a challenge. I agree that Slack channels are excellent and it does get to everybody, or it gets to a number of people. And we will continue to use that, especially if that's working, but just maybe even if we could dial that in a little better to make sure that it's being received by the right people. So Karen, do you have a forum where questions and relevant answers can be posted by each group that everyone can see in case it applies to them? So that, no, but a very good idea. We've talked about that, having a central location where us as the supporters who are seeing these opportunities could upload all the information as they come up, and then it's just kind of up to the tech sector to go continue to look to see what today's opportunities are or what's coming up. Is that something that would be useful? I mean, obviously it'd be a bit of work in to make sure that it's I don't think it'd be too bad, but it'd be a bit of work to set that up and to make sure that the right information is being curated. But if that's something that's useful, that's something that we could definitely explore and make happen. To be honest, I'm not going to read emails. I think I would think just making it easy to connect with individuals. I like support sites that have knowledge base and the ability to connect with a person to point in the right direction. Is that you, Mr. Crossman? That was from David.
Yeah, I was sorry. I was trying to type.
You were testing me. You're testing my ability to read, and I failed, so I apologize.
No,
but yeah. So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, just the way that people can actively make the effort to go out and find who I'm supposed to be talking to, because I think like these sessions are great because now I know I have a list of people I can reach out to, and just like a short summary of like these are the needs that I can actually do, and then like being able to even just set up a time with one of the individuals or anything like that, or just making it really accessible for the community to almost kind of self-serve themselves, and maybe they'll find the wrong person, but maybe they get pointed to the right person, kind of that kind of system where kind of making it accessible for people to actively reach towards the services that are there. I don't know, that's my thoughts.
No, that's great. I think the central repository idea is really good. And does anybody have any experience with a good central repository? Because like you see these all the time now, right? People try to make a site that curates all this information so it's accessible, and then all of a sudden you end up with a whole bunch of those kind of sites. But is there one that you see that works really well that we could replicate, where it's really just sharing information about opportunities and allowing people to serve themselves. But the other piece that you mentioned, David, that's interesting is the opportunity to kind of book a session to talk to one of us to better pathfind so that we're more accessible. So maybe that would be a piece of that repository somehow.
I have a question for David. So you mentioned sort of that person contact. Does it make sense for us to, for example, hold office hours in places like Collabs and Cultivator, where once a month we spend an afternoon to just have that in-person engagement? Like, does something like that, is that helpful to have that more organic sort of engagement with companies? Is that helpful, or is it better to sort of be more specific in lining something up so it aligns to everyone's schedule?
I think so personally, but I think everybody operates differently. I know with being out of the cultivator, like we do have legal services in residence, we do have finance services in residence, and one of those things is we may not use it every month, but the times that we're like, okay, the problem occurs, now we can book a time, it's super beneficial. Especially like I'm thinking as we look to expand, it's not one of those things where it's just like, okay, let's learn now so that in 6 months we can do it. It's going to be one of those turning points where, okay, we have capped out on what we think that our Canadian market is, or maybe we want to just completely expand over to the US, and we need to get a plan in place. And I think like, even if it's like a monthly, like 4 hours that are dedicated, and they could just be loosely, like you don't even need to take your like come in person or anything like that, but just have it be bookable. I think that's such a huge benefit, because at least people can set the time, and if the time gets booked, at least hey, this is valuable. And if it's not, then worst case, you just have that afternoon to do your regular work. But at least it gives people the option to really book in and do something like that.
That's great. Thanks, David. Hands raised. Corey.
Hi, yeah, I guess my question is, it feels like we're mostly talking about like opportunities for markets, funding, grants. I feel that we have a good handle on that, and I feel what we do not have a good handle on is like we don't have an MBA in our company to go to all these different countries just to, well, I can find staff, we have good markets, but we're importing hardware. How do we pay taxes? How do we set up employees? Like, the business administration side is our struggle. We got tremendous market opportunities and everything, and I don't really ever hear anything about this kind of support for international business.
That's a fair comment. I don't know in terms of supports that are out there that I hear. I'm not sure either. I don't know about Kendra or Ren or Andrew. But would that be more general anyways, Corey? I mean, that's on the in terms of the business side. I mean, is that it's not just international? You're just talking in general to have supports. Are you talking about funding for somebody on the business side, or access to that business person, or what specifically are you thinking?
Well, I guess like I'm not a business administrative professional. I guess it's easy to do business in Canada, generally speaking, but I mean, every province, you still have to file taxes and everything. Like by the time you're done hiring lawyers and accountants in every jurisdiction and stuff, like it's a gong show. So whereas if we're all promoting everyone to go international, once you get there, it's like impossible to do business because you can't figure out your way to get things done. Make sure you're obeying the rules and the laws and hiring.
The complexity of navigating that. Kendra?
I think both the TCS and the provincial government will have resources that can help with that. We have an entire trade policy unit that that's their specialty, is understanding how market access works. So I think if and when you have specific questions about certain countries, that's something, again, that we could pathfind for you. Those resources do exist. I just would have to figure it out internally, but that's not your job, that's our job. So I think that's something that we could help with.
Just to add to that, definitely, step where we are more so helping you get there. We'll go there with you to new markets. And I recommend keeping our market intelligence in mind when it comes to trying to understand those regulatory issues beforehand, as well as compliance. But like Kendra just said, I think boots on the ground would be these other organizations a little bit more.
I see, Corey, there's some people on the call are sharing some links for you in the chat that might be useful. So thanks for that.
Yeah, Corey, I just popped in you're probably aware of it, but BDC Advisory Services, this is something you pay for, but, they do have people, and you've probably explored it. So, my apologies if this is something that already reviewed, but, my understanding is that they do have, advisors to help you on some of the sort of business development, admin side of things. But certainly when it comes to regulations or understanding what it's like to do business, or what are the considerations you need in a new jurisdiction, these are things that we can help you with. In some cases, for example, we've published a series of webinars on certain topics that can be on demand. So US taxation, we did a webinar with an accounting firm to talk about some of the complex nature of taxation in the US. We are not consultants, so we can't drive down, as the TCS, we can't drive down to the nitty-gritty details of your company, but we can certainly point you in the right direction, provide you some of those sort of like broader resources to help sort of get as much as you can without paying for it. And then, we can also point you in the right direction of consultants who can maybe help you if there is something very specific that you need to navigate. I mentioned, for example, our GDPR, so our data privacy. We have someone who specializes this in Brussels to help companies navigate that if they're thinking about the European Union. We've run webinars on California data privacy. I mean, these are things that some of which are on demand, and can be helpful to you. So, it's not going to, unfortunately, we're not going to have everything, but there's some things we can have and other things that we can point you in the direction on, and then otherwise provide some advice.
It's great. Thanks, Ren. Corey, I don't know if you were going to say something. You got highlighted there.
I just was going to say thank you. That's helpful. I just often feel like I'm the only person with these problems. Like, there has to be everybody, once they get going, like, you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on all this stuff. Just once you get to the market, you have good product market fit, and yet there's really no easy information access for some of this stuff. Like, it should all have been done like many, many times by other companies. Just some helpful documentation even would be good, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, no, that's good. Great question. Lots of challenges and barriers there, I'm sure, in the expansion into international markets. All right. If there are no other comments or questions, I think that's great. I mean, there are a lot of good information, good discussion, lots for us to take back. That repository piece is really interesting. I think that's something that we really need to sit down and try to coordinate, because I think that really would be useful for everybody, both on our side receiving the information, and then on your side receiving what we're trying to disseminate and make it accessible and make sure that it's timely for you so you can take advantage of those opportunities. The other piece is the office hours. I think that's another one that's really interesting, is just that availability, so that you can book some time and we could spend some more time with David Crossman, which is always nice. So that's great. So if there are no more comments, I think, oh, something came up in the chat. Oh, all the contacts. So thank you very much, Amanda, for all your help today, sharing everything in the chat. That was really, really great to have you supporting and sharing all those links. So thank you very much. And like I said, there are two objectives. One was to get the information out to you as the tech sector, but also to receive this feedback. We really want you to take home that message that we're here to support you, and open no wrong door policy, right? Reach out if you have any international interest. We'll do our best to provide you with the best pathways and the information that we do have. And then this is the first of the ongoing discussion is the other piece is we're available. We want to continue to do this and figure out how we can best serve you and meet your needs. So please feel free to reach out. And if this was useful, let us know. We're happy to do these again in the future, or I assume we are. I'll talk to the group, but I assume everybody's happy to do these if they're useful for people. But we're happy to do whatever to support you guys. So if any other final thoughts, I'll leave it open for about 10 seconds and then we'll let everybody get going. All right, so thanks. Happy stage managed from Ted. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day and yeah, best of luck internationally and at home. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.